Welcome to the Rising Entrepreneurs Podcast, where we feature top founders and entrepreneurs and their journey. Now, let's get started with the show.
All right, welcome everyone. John Corcoran here. I am the co-host of this show. And you know, if you've listened before, every week we have smart CEOs, founders, and entrepreneurs from all kinds of companies. If you check out their archives, you can see those previous past episodes. And this episode is brought to you by Rise 25, where we help B2B businesses to get clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships with done-for-you podcasts and content marketing. And you can learn more about what we do at rise25.com or email our team at support@rise25. And this episode is also brought to you by EO Valley, which is the LA Valley, Los Angeles Valley chapter of Entrepreneurs Organization, which is a global peer-to-peer network of 20,000 influential business owners across 200 chapters, 60 plus countries. And so if you are the founder, co-founder, owner, or controlling shareholder of a company that generates over $1 million a year in revenue, and you want to connect with other like-minded successful entrepreneurs, EO is for you. And you can learn more at the website for EO Valley. My guest here today is Rachel Zhang. She is a color analyst. She has a company called House of Colors based out of Westlake Village, California. And we're going to get into her story, how she got into that. And it is an interesting background because she was telling me beforehand about how everyone has different colors. And I have always been self-conscious about my complexion because I am pale as a ghost. I went to the dermatologist recently and said that I have zero pigment, which is not an exaggeration. So I've always felt like I look bad in just about every color except for blue. So we're going to find out if that's true or not. But Rachel, first, I want to hear from you. So this is your first entrepreneurial company, but you've done things that are entrepreneurial before. So in high school, you sold Cutco knives, which for those who don't know, it's a great training program, great sales program. And I think it's like you go and you sell knives to your parents' friends and door to door and anywhere you can, right? So tell me about it.
Yeah, thanks, John, for having me on. So for anyone who's not familiar with Cutco knives, they're really great, high quality knives. But you basically learn how to sell things, and the things that you're selling are knives, as well as scissors that can cut through pennies, which may or may
Wow.
not be illegal to destroy illegal tender. But anyway, so that was kind of my first foray into being able to understand how to meet people I've never met before, explain a product, and be able to sell to them. And kind of my first taste of entrepreneurship.
Wow, that's cool. And you actually were like a top 3 in the region?
I was, yeah. So, I was in high school and I started being kind of successful in being able to experience convincing people that this was a good product and people wanted to buy from me. And the next thing I knew, after about 2 weeks, I was one of the top 3 salesmen in the New Jersey region and received a pretty large check for being a high schooler. It's the most money I'd ever seen. And it was very exciting.
Yeah. So you go from New Jersey to Berkeley, which is actually quite a ways away, all the way across the country. I imagine there are not many from New Jersey coming to Berkeley, or maybe there's more than I realized. And that was quite an experience. You graduated in 3 years, and you even had to work 2 jobs at the same time. That's insane.
Yeah, so out-of-state tuition was very expensive for Berkeley. And so, I studied psychology and I was able to balance my course load so that I could take classes on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays and work 2 jobs on Tuesdays and Thursdays. One of the jobs that I held was working in a library, and the second one was during big football games. I was hired to be a golf cart driver for some of the VIP box seat holders, and we would drive them from the parking lot to their seats or to various parts of the stadium. And that was a really fun job.
Now, there are some very well-known, renowned, famous Cal alumni in the Bay Area. Did you ever drive any famous people around?
I didn't. However, there were a couple of Olympians at school, especially Nathan Adrian and a couple of the other Olympic swimmers when I was there, but I did not drive them
Yeah.
around in golf carts.
Nathan Adrian actually lives not too far from me now. I
Yeah.
saw him on Halloween, actually. He was trick-or-treating in my neighborhood. Yeah. Olympic swimmer,
Really
gold
nice
medalist.
guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Very tall too.
Hmm.
Incredibly tall.
Yeah.
So and then you go into the corporate world. You worked as a recruiter for a number of years, recruiting doctors, and you also worked for Meta, Facebook, managing other recruiters.
Yeah, I really kind of cut my teeth in the interviewing world. So, John, you're a great interviewer. And
Thank you.
I realized at a certain point when I was applying for jobs that I actually enjoyed interviews and probably one of the few people who do. And so I decided, okay, what would it be like to sit in the other seat on the other side and provide people with a good interview experience? So I've worked at a lot of different companies, startups, large companies. I worked at Oura Ring. They make a wearable ring that tracks your sleep and health and heart rate, and hired a lot of their C-suite and executives. And it was really great. I really enjoyed being able to hire people I wanted to work with and being able to meet people from kind of all walks of life.
Yeah. What did your experience working in tech, how did that lead you to entrepreneurship? Did you feel like, oh, I want to own my own company one day, or is that something that had harkened back to the days of selling knives?
That's a great question, John, and the perfect question, really, because I entered into what is uh, nicely called forced entrepreneurship in
Mhm.
2022, when a lot of companies were doing layoffs in the tech sector. I decided that this was kind of the perfect opportunity for me to start my own company and work for myself. I think if that kind of hadn't happened, where Meta laid off about 50% of their recruiting organization and many other companies were laying off people, so they didn't really need recruiters to hire more. I think I would have been a little bit more nervous about the opportunity cost of exploring owning my own company and taking on that risk when I had previously, for about 10 years, been working for a company that was giving me a paycheck every single week. It was the best decision I had ever made. I had gotten my colors done prior to being laid off by Meta, and it had completely changed my life. And when I moved to my area, there was nobody doing this. So I'll talk a little bit more about that kind of opportunity and demand later. But I got trained in Austin, Texas for about 2 weeks, and then I was off to the races and started my business.
What inspired you to get your colors done, and what did that entail?
Yeah, so when I was a little bit like you, John, when I was young, I could not figure out for the life of me what colors I should be wearing. And so I had actually discovered that color analysis was very popular in the 70s and 80s and in the 90s. Now, there was nobody really in New Jersey, but I had read all about it. And so when I had the opportunity to get my colors done, in California, I jumped at it, but it's something that had always been percolating in my mind. And what's really interesting is that a lot of us have some intuition about color harmony. Like for you, John, you said you like blue. And oftentimes those colors are in our best palette for our most flattering colors because we feel good in those colors. We often look good in those colors. So everyone just has a little bit of intuition around
Yeah.
their best colors.
Yeah, or their worst colors, right? I mean, I
Yes.
know I look horrible in like pink, orange, and brown. I look the worst in
Okay.
brown. It
Okay.
just is like completely makes me look like I am sickly.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I mean, like maybe it's how often do you find that people are wrong about that?
About 80 to 90% of the time.
Really,
Yes.
really.
So my story, John, is that I was very wrong about the colors that I thought looked good on me. For about 10 years, I was wearing a lot of browns and oranges and olive greens. And I didn't know. I didn't know what looked good on me, but that's what was available. So that's what I was buying. And after I got my colors done, the woman said, you know, you look best in jewel tone colors, royal blues, purples, things I had never really worn before. But when I saw myself in photographs and in the mirror, comparing those two tones, it was a world of a difference. So,
Hmm.
a lot of people, actually, a lot of my clientele tend to be very pale individuals because they have a hard time knowing what colors look good on them. And if a
Tan people,
color
they just look good in everything.
And if a color doesn't look good on a pale person, it can be more obvious. So the good news is I've been able to help every single pale person who has walked through my doors. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Now you also in the midst of this, or maybe it was before it, I don't know the order of it. COVID happens, and that was actually before the layoff. And you go to an outdoor wedding where you meet your future husband. Tell us that
Yeah.
story.
It's a fun story. So, when 2020 hit, my sister was getting married and decided to have an outdoor wedding with about 30 people. So it was immediate family on both sides, a couple of friends. I was the maid of honor, and my now husband was the best man because he
Hmm.
was best friends with my brother-in-law. They had gone to Northwestern together. And so we were kind of all hands on deck. We were setting up all the chairs and cleaning up all the food after the wedding and kind of doing everything. And so after the wedding, I had texted him to thank him for helping out and kind of offhandedly said, hey, maybe we can get coffee sometime. At the time, I was living in the Bay Area. He was living in Los Angeles. And he agreed, but we didn't know when that would happen. And the next weekend, I had spontaneously decided to drive down for my dad's birthday and texted him and asked if he was available for
Unrelated
lunch.
to the fact that he was close by.
Unrelated,
Uh-huh,
maybe a little
uh-huh.
bit motivated. I
Or
don't
so
know.
you said, yeah, uh-huh.
He was available for lunch. Lunch turned into going to Santa Monica Beach and talking for about 6 hours. So we went from 12 to 6. I looked at my clock and I said, hey, do you want to get dinner? Are you hungry? And he said yes. And turned into an 11-hour first date. And it was
Wow.
the best first date I'd ever been on. And yeah, the rest is kind of history.
Wow, amazing. Had you guys met before the wedding?
We met a couple days before the wedding party, we all kind of had dinner together. And my first impression is that he's very quiet in a group, very introverted. And so, when I had asked him out and we had decided to go to lunch, I texted one of my friends and I said, if this doesn't go well, I might need you to bail me out because he might not talk during the date. It might be very awkward. So I had an escape plan just in case. Lunch didn't go well, but thankfully it went really well.
And in retrospect, did your sister and everyone else say that they could tell that there was some kind of connection between you two at the wedding, or no?
Absolutely not.
No, nothing.
My
No.
sister had never pictured us together. My husband and I are fairly opposites. I'm pretty extroverted. He is an analyst at SE Edison, very introverted and research oriented and analytical. And so she didn't know how things would work out. She was a little bit nervous that if things didn't work out, it'd be very awkward later on. But thankfully, everything worked out.
So
So it
had you
was great.
done the colors before you met your husband?
No, that was
It was
before
later.
color. Yeah.
So what was your husband's reaction when you start changing out your whole wardrobe?
And changing
Like,
out his
like
wardrobe.
this girl moves from New Jersey to California, goes full California, talking about changing her colors, changing her whole
Yeah.
wardrobe. I mean, was he like, "What's going on with you?"
He was very supportive, very supportive. And what's really interesting about color analysis, John, is that it's backed by science and data. And so just like that blue looks good on you and certain colors you don't like on you, brown, that is very similar to how the camera reacts. In terms of how it sees color. And so that's why a lot of TVs and TV shows and movies use color analysis for different characters on the screen because the human eye works very similarly to a camera shutter. So oftentimes you'll see villains purposefully dressed in colors that do not flatter them in order to create an environment of emotional friction. So I'll give you an example. In The Godfather, the mafia men were specifically dressed in brown suits. We had sometimes Vinny was wearing a tan suit, or Al Pacino would be wearing a brown suit. And that was very purposeful because back then, Italian men and mafia men would usually wear navy suits. But because that would really flatter their complexion, they decided to put them in colors that would not be flattering in order to add kind of a menacing feel, an underlying subconscious feeling of making the audience feel a little bit uncomfortable whenever they would be watching The Godfather and all the men in the mafia. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
interesting.
Mhm.
Um, how has it been for you making this big life shift? I mean, so in the last 5 years during COVID, met your husband, relocated from the Bay Area to Southern California, then started a new business in a new community, which oftentimes that's really hard because you don't know a lot of people. So talk a little bit about
Yeah.
some of those challenges.
Sure. I had referenced before that there was nobody in my area, John. And so I experienced my first year a lot of highs and a couple of lows, but one of the biggest highs was really being able to buy this franchise, buy inventory, and then be in the black in a couple of months. So I was able to be profitable in about 3 or 4 months. One of the big factors for that is that there was nobody else doing what I was doing. And so I had people driving from Bakersfield, Santa Barbara, Santa Maria, kind of even Fresno sometimes to come and see me and get their colors done. Because there was just nobody around them providing those services.
Mm.
And then, of course, I was close enough to Hollywood where I would get different actors. I had the actress Jane Leeves, who was on Frasier and Seinfeld, come and get her colors done. Very sweet lady, definitely a high. And I've had a lot of individuals as well, just people curious about what colors look good on them, whether it's doctors or lawyers. Eric from EO came and got his colors done because he's often on TV being interviewed about legal matters, and he wanted to know what colors looked best on him when he was on screen.
And I want to ask you, it's interesting because there are stylists
Hmm.
and there are people that describe themselves as stylists, and kind of the it seems to me that the ultimate goal here is to know what clothing to wear, but you
Hmm.
deliberately don't describe yourself as a stylist, leading with the color analysis, and then kind of following on with then from there it drives what fashion, what attire
Yes.
you're gonna have. So I'm curious, like, does it require a lot of education when you talk to people, or do people have people already educated themselves? They've consumed information online, or they have a good understanding that their colors are off, or they don't know what colors they should use, and so they're kind of sold on the concept when they come to you.
I would say about 80% of the clients who come in have heard about it from Instagram or YouTube, or somebody spoke about it. And so they are somewhat aware of what color analysis is. Most of the time, when I go to a networking event and I'm explaining what it is, it's a lot more of that education. I find that color analysis, color education, I like to often introduce myself as a color confidence coach, can be a little bit more accessible, sometimes, especially to men, than being a stylist. Sometimes men don't want to be styled, but they do want to know what colors that they should wear.
Mm.
If you're going to be wearing a black suit versus a brown suit versus a gray suit, and all of those have different effects on how people perceive you. Sometimes wearing your best colors can actually help you to close more clients and grow your business. So I get a lot of business owners as well coming through the door. And I really enjoy being able to help people grow their business by being able to influence people better during first impressions when they're wearing their best colors.
And how much of what you do is actually like coaching them on convincing them that they can make these changes? Like if someone's been wearing, blues and purples their entire lives, and you're like, actually, you would look best in orange and browns.
Hmm.
For a lot of people, that is a major
Big
shift, and it
change.
just yeah, it's I would think it would be hard to convince people to make that kind of shift.
Yeah, that's a great observation, John. What I find to be the most common experience is that many people in California wear black, and sometimes mostly only black with very few colors. And that can be some of the biggest shifts is if black is not their best color in their palette. And so one of the things that really helps during the appointment is that it's a very visual process. So imagine sitting down in a chair with a mirror in front of you, and then there's natural light coming in. And I put different colors on you and I compare them. So if I put black on you, John, versus I put brown on you versus blue on you, and then we compare them, you will be able to see a shift in your skin where maybe you look more healthy in one and you look less healthy in the other. So right away, people can see that very big difference with that direct comparison. And then also, I give them some homework when they go home. I say, I would like for you to wear certain colors for the next 2 weeks. Please don't wear the colors that are not in your best palette. And after the 2 weeks, you can put those back on, but hopefully during that training period of the 2 weeks, your eyes will start to adjust to understanding what colors look best on you. And so then when you put on black, for example, if that's not your best color, you'll really be able to see that difference out. Okay, now I understand that this doesn't look as good on me as some of the other colors that are best on me.
Yeah. All right. So you asked me beforehand what was the color of my hair when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I don't have a picture of me when I was younger, but I do have a picture of this is
Uh-huh.
what my hair looked like when I was younger. So that
Yes.
is my now 11-year-old who
Uh-huh.
is basically my mini me. If you held up a picture of him at 11, that's a
Yes.
couple years ago. If you held up a picture of him at 11 and me at 11, we look like spitting image.
Yes.
So any thoughts on that?
I imagine, John, and I could be wrong because I am just looking at a photo. I imagine that you might look really good in a Kelly green or a grass green if you've ever tried that color on you before, as well as beige. Have you ever worn like a
Beige.
beige sweater? Yeah.
I will wear like beige pants,
Uh-huh.
but beige doesn't often make it above the waist on me. And maybe like some, well, I don't know, leather belt is more of a brown than a beige.
Yeah.
But yeah, a beige sweater I'd be fearful of it. That would be a
Yeah.
big switch for me.
And that's often the experience of my clients where we have told ourselves different stories about colors, things we should avoid, things we should stick to. But the thing is that we really don't know what we don't know. So if you've never tried a beige sweater on you, John, and it looks really professional, makes you look really healthy or flatters your complexion, you would never know if you didn't try it that it actually does look good on you.
Yes, I wouldn't. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I will have to branch out and look for a sweater of that type and the green colors as well that you mentioned. And my wife will
Yes.
thank you because I'm sure she's sick of me wearing blue all the time. So, Rachel, this has been
Yeah.
great. Where can people go to learn more about you and connect with you?
Yes, so I am at House of Color Westlake Village. And if you are located in a state outside of California, or if you're in the Bay Area like John, you can look up House of Color and find a consultant near you. There's about 400 other consultants in the United States because it is a franchise based out of the UK. So there will be somebody near you. Or if you're visiting LAX or Disneyland, you can come and see me and I will help you find your best colors.
Very cool. Rachel, thanks so much.
Thanks, John.
Thanks for listening to the Rising Entrepreneurs Podcast. This episode is powered by Rise 25. Please subscribe and check out future episodes.